Probably the most famous Bermuda Triangle disappearance is that of Flight 19. During a December 1945 Navy training flight, 5 airplanes and 14 airmen were ultimately lost, as was a rescue plane and its 13 crew members. I find it amazing that this account is so widely cited as proof of the mysterious or sinister nature of the triangle, because there's a very clear record of documentation outlining precisely what went wrong and what happened to these planes and their pilots. As Evan Andrews writes for History.com, quote, "Flight leader Charles Taylor became convinced that his Avenger's compass was malfunctioning and that his planes had been flying in the wrong direction. The troubles only mounted after a front blew in and brought rain, gusting winds, and heavy cloud cover. Flight 19 became hopelessly disoriented. 'I don't know where we are,' one of the pilots said over the radio. 'We must have got lost after that last turn.' Taylor had become convinced that he might be over the Gulf of Mexico. Hoping to locate the Florida Peninsula, he made a fateful decision to steer Flight 19 northeast, a course that would only take them even farther out to sea. Some of his pilots seemed to have recognized that he was making a mistake. 'Damn it,' one griped over the radio, 'if we would just fly west, we would get home.' Flight 19's radio transmission soon became increasingly faint as it meandered out to sea. When fuel began to run low, Taylor was heard prepping his men for a potential crash landing in the ocean. 'All planes close up tight,' he said. 'We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together.' A few minutes later, the Avenger's last radio communications were replaced by an eerie buzz of static." End quote. Despite the title of this article being The Mysterious Disappearance of Flight 19, there's nothing deeply mysterious about this account, and there's certainly no need to invoke UFOs, interdimensional travel, or the lost city of Atlantis to explain what happened. Basically, the flight leader got lost, led his men in the wrong direction, and they ran out of fuel out at sea. Unless we're audacious enough to describe this as paranormal incompetency, nothing about these events indicates that the Bermuda Triangle is a uniquely spooky or dangerous region. This was just pilot error, plain and simple, and I feel especially bad for Taylor's men, who grudgingly followed him into oblivion despite knowing better. Oh yeah? Well, why was his compass malfunctioning? Maybe his compass was just fucked up. Do electronics and instruments never malfunction? One of the reasons that people think something fishy went on here is that one of the rescue planes that went to search for Flight 19 also went missing. Thus, we're told something truly strange must have been going on. But there's also a pretty clear explanation of what happened to this plane. Aliens abducted it. No, as Andrews continues, quote, "The Navy immediately scrambled search planes to hunt for the missing patrol. Around 7:30 p.m., a pair of PBM Mariner flying boats took off from an air station north of Fort Lauderdale. Just 20 minutes later, however, one of them seemed to follow Flight 19's lead by suddenly vanishing off radar. The remains of the Mariner and its 13 crewmen were never recovered, but it's commonly believed that the seaplane exploded shortly after takeoff. Flying boats were notoriously accident-prone, and were even nicknamed flying gas tanks for their propensity for catching fire. Suspicions that the seaplane may have gone up in flames were all but confirmed by a passing merchant ship, which spotted a fireball and found evidence of an oil slick in the ocean." End quote. Pfft, like I'm gonna trust History.com. I prefer to get my facts from much more reliable sources. The typo-ridden comments posted by anonymous, paranoid users on conspiracy forums. Whenever we're confronted with an event like this, we have an option before us. We can do some research and learn about what actually happened, or we can just make up the most outlandish nonsense. The latter option was wisely chosen by YouTube user Babyface Nelson, who writes the following in a comment, quote, "They flew too far and ended up flying into another Earth area, hidden to our society. But if you keep going straight off Florida, eventually you'll leave Earth as you know it and enter another area of Earth beyond our land, and lands they hide from us. And those planes had to land and then never returned for obvious reasons. They did not die. They lived out their lives in that other area of high technology, basically the future." End quote. Yeah, man, I'm sure that's what happens, and I'm sure you're just overwhelmed by the sheer amount of evidence that you have to support this idea. This guy should change his username from Baby Face Nelson to Baby Brain Nelson. I'm on Patreon. There's a link in the description if you'd like to support my content. I would really appreciate it. There's also social media links in there if you want to follow me there. I'm trying to build up some of those followings. I would really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos if you haven't already. hit the bell, hit the like button, post a fucking comments, all that fun stuff. It's standard on YouTube. You know the fucking drill. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.